It's 4 o'clock. We'll wait another minute for Aaron. Don't need it quite that close to me. Bobby, did you need to look at this?
I did.
Okay.
House opens next week. Okay.
Your place? Yeah.
Traffic light shut. First 3 residents.
Really?
7
How many minutes?
60.
60.
Forecast of 60.
Yeah. Do you have some reservations about it, or just
Well, no, it's just going to be high intensity.
initially, or just in general?
In general,
Going to get started?
high intensity population. So
Give her another minute.
Are there?
ice skates are primarily mentors in terms of the schools.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you have a partner for like the social?
Okay, we're still waiting on one person, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, Aaron. I'd like to call to order the September 27th regular meeting of the NFP Review Board. Jamie, can you give us a roll call?
Yes. Chair Colwick.
Present.
Director Fuller.
Present.
Director Glasser.
I am here.
Director Leto.
Present.
Director Martin.
Present.
Director Sylvester.
Present.
All right, no absent members. And next, the board received a resignation letter from Director McNallis that we'd like to formally accept. Later in the meeting, we will discuss how the position will be filled. Can I entertain a motion to accept the resignation of Director McNallis from the NFP Review Board?
So moved. Support.
Okay. Any comments from the board before we vote?
We're going to miss him.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wish him well.
All right, thank you. Now can we all in favor vote say aye?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Now on to the adoption of the formal agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
All right, can we get a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Support.
All right, thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, agenda is adopted. You'll note that there are 2 meeting minutes in your packets today. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, great. Can we get a motion to adopt the minutes from June 28th and August 23rd?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
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 Okay.
Minutes adopted. Okay, now we will take comments from the public on any NFP matters or agenda items. As a reminder, there will not be a separate public comment period for items under new business today. We will start with comments from those in the audience. If you're here to make a comment, feel free to move forward and state your name and city of residence. And then you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Okay? And do we have any comments on the phone? No comments?
Okay.
Okay, great. Next is any board comments. Would any board members like to make comments, generally or in response to public comments? And any questions for staff? Okay, hearing none, we'll move forward to new business. Item 1 is an application for NFP site plan approval. We invite the applicant for the 1023 Riverview Drive project to give their presentation at the podium, and then we'll hear from staff.
My name is Spencer Odell. I'm with AR Engineering, the engineer for the project, at 1023 Riverview Drive. The project consists of, and you can go to the site plan, I think it's the second page or third page. The project consists of 2 uses. The one along Riverview is a small drive-through coffee shop. And the building to the west is to support the owner's disabled people's transportation service. It's an office space and a garage for a vehicle. The existing site, there's not much there except some old pavement. There's no trees currently on site, and natural features are fairly limited. As part of site plan approval with the city, we're working through stormwater design, which will consist of underground stormwater detention and treatment via storm structures and infiltration. And then next couple pages, there's a landscaping plan that I think it's the next one. One more. Oh, is it on the site plan? I think we have our landscaping on our site plan. But it's fairly simple landscaping. The city's asked us to incorporate some additional along the frontage of Riverview, and which will be updating here for their review, but I think the species are approved by this board. So
Yes, Spencer, I think this is the sheet, correct?
yep, that's got the landscaping schedule of the plantings.
So
and
for
I'm-
board members, that's L1, should be the last page in the packet.
Can answer any questions you might have about it.
Hi, was wondering about the design of the development in regard to flooding. I know that that area, especially more recently, has been prone to flooding during spring runoff and high water periods, and actually pulled it up on GIS just to see where the parcels were. When the aerial photo was taken, the Ampersea Avenue was actually totally flooded there. This parcel was not. It looked dry, but just, I was curious as to if there's anything incorporated into the design, if that's the stormwater or the buildings themselves.
Yep, so the west portion of the site is actually, elevation is in the floodplain, the 100-year floodplain. And as part of this project, we're raising the elevation of the site, and we've gotten our polar permit through Eagle for fill in the floodplain.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Spencer?
Chair Kolwick, would you like me to go over any of the agenda report from staff?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Staff did send out just yesterday some pictures of some existing conditions on the site. So the site has seemed like for the last 10 plus years, it's been in the same condition. It's got the paved surfaces that were noted in the first page of the site plan, and it's mostly mowed. There are sort of trees along the neighboring property lines, but for the most part, this has been used sort of informally for some parking in the past, but otherwise it looks like it's been vacant for quite some time. The owner has owned it for about not quite 2 years and is looking to redevelop it for this commercial use, which is allowed within the CMU zone district. Staff, especially our stormwater engineer, has been working closely on the stormwater approval. So today we're asking for an approval conditional upon Eric's review and approval for the stormwater piece. I'd also like to point out that there were some comments from staff. So this project has been to a internal staff project meeting where Spencer's presented this plan, got some feedback on ingress and egress, especially from our fire marshal, and continues to work on the stormwater piece. There was a comment from zoning staff that there may need to be some additional shrubs and trees planted just to meet our overall zoning code for landscape standards. And so, again, I think that's a condition that you could work into your approval today, which would be that, again, all of those plants are Michigan native species that are selected, and then I can make sure once that goes through final site plan review, which I think is happening probably in the next couple of weeks, and then I can make sure that the NFP approval goes forward. The site, I did spend some time on our city's GIS, and we do have the original mapping that Nolan Bergstrom did to help us kind of understand what was going to be included in the overlay district. And this parcel was selected because it's within 200 feet of the Kalamazoo River. It is, right at that 200 feet, so it actually places it outside of requiring any riparian buffer. However, really the main thing here, it's fairly flat in the floodplain, so no protected slopes. There were no woodlands on the site or wetlands, and it didn't require an MNFI rare species search. However, really what we're looking at is plant selection for required landscaping and that stormwater management piece. So this property will require that additional stormwater treatment as is required in the overlay district, compared to if it were not in the overlay district. So staff's recommendation was to approve. I definitely love any comments you have on Michigan native species. You all always have some, good feedback on that. Any other design considerations that you might recommend for this site? However, you can see it's pretty small. They're able to kind of just work this into the footprint that they're working with right now. So it was a pretty straightforward review as far as natural features, not a whole lot to be considered in the design and construction. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Jamie. I'll just make a couple other comments mention you're looking for feedback on the landscaping. And I see in the site plans, and these are probably not necessarily finalized yet, there's a red maple and I think that would be a gray dogwood, but cultivars. There is a lot of ongoing research on whether cultivars function the same way as the true native species, and it's kind of a mixed bag of results, but the fact that you are right next to the floodplain, I think those are good species in general. Red maple would be a good species. Sycamore would be another naturally occurring species in that area, swamp white oak, things like that. The other thing that comes to mind is spice bush, which has the dual benefit of being deer resistant, and there's a growing deer population in Kalamazoo, and that would be another indigenous floodplain species that's great for migratory birds as well. So those handful came to mind.
Okay, I just want to give everyone a moment for any additional comments or questions for Spencer. All right. Hearing none, I would like to entertain a motion to approve the NFP site plan application for the redevelopment project at 1023 Riverview Drive and 1014 Ampersea Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
Great. Here's support from Fuller. Yeah, so any other comments before we move forward with a roll call vote?
Jamie, didn't you mention something about making it contingent upon the new landscaping that will be added to be native? Throwing that in there.
Yeah, would we like to amend that motion to be approval contingent upon stormwater approval by the city stormwater engineer, and that any new or additional landscaping added to the site plan will include Michigan native species?
Okay.
Director,
Yes, please.
yeah, I guess the motion was Director Leto. Are you adding those items?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'll support those.
Great. All right, hearing no further comments from board members, can we have a roll call vote, please, Jamie?
Yes. Colwick.
Yes.
Fuller.
Yes.
Glasser.
Approved.
Leto.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Sylvester.
Yes.
Thank you. And Spencer, I'll send a letter to you and copy Mr. Durkee so he understands that this one is approved. And then as you put in your full site plan documents, I'll keep tabs on it and be being able to approve the NFP part. Thanks for coming out.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Spencer.
Thank you.
All right, so next on the agenda is the appointment of NFP board members to a nominating committee to review and recommend applications to fill a vacancy on the board. Jamie, do you have staff comment on this action before we make a motion?
I did want to make a few comments. I looked up the bylaws and looked at the board roster as it exists today with Director McNellis' resignation. The way the bylaws are written is that the board makeup must have at least 4 members who represent 4 core areas of focus or expertise, and that would be plants and trees, wetlands or water resources, geology, and site development or construction. Right now, Paul McNellis from back in 2019 records was put down as wetlands, water resources, probably related to a lot of the stormwater facilities management stuff he's done, but we have some duplication of that on the board. So it really looks like you're able to select from a varied background that you think will help, balance the board and serve you all. The nominating committee, I'm picturing you could have 2 to 3 folks who are on your board right now. If you could take some volunteers today and form that committee, I'm happy to then help us do some advertising through the city's social media, and then we can convene when there's a number of applicants that you all want to, review those applicants and perhaps do some interviews before you make a recommendation to this board. And then ultimately what happens is the board as a whole will make a recommendation to the mayor, and then the appointment goes through the city commission. Mm-hmm. I will note that there are a couple of other things I could see this nominating committee doing. One would be contacting, we have 3 board members right now, Fuller, Leto, and Martin, who are, their 3-year term is up this year. You have the ability to serve another term, and so the committee could reach out to those 3 folks and make sure they're willing to or interested in serving, or if we have another vacancy, you can know that going in. And then we should confirm or nominate some officers. Again, the 2 officer positions for this board are chair and vice chair. Director McNellis was filling the vice chair position, so it's timely for us. It is our kind of 1-year mark so that we could, I think our officers, I can check, I think they can serve more than 1 year. However, we should, work to elect those officers at this time.
Jamie, can you remind me, I feel like at our last meeting, maybe Ashley, you had somebody who was interested in applying, and you said just to have them go ahead and apply, and then when we had a vacancy, we would, so do we have some candidates that have applied? You may not know off the top of your head, I'm just curious if that.
That's a great question.
Possibility.
So kind of a two-part question. First, how might interested folks apply? And they can go onto the city's website. I can check here. I can get you the exact link. But if you go onto the city's website, I think it's under community, and then you can go under, or government, and you can go under boards and commissions. It's not too hard to navigate to. It's an online application. It's pretty simple to fill out. That goes to the clerk's office, and then the clerk will forward applicants to the different board liaisons. I have not gotten an application in recent memory. So right now I'd say you don't really have a pool of applicants to look at, so we should do some marketing and advertising that the position are open right now. And so that's how we could recruit some folks. I would certainly encourage all of you to reach out to your networks, folks who you think might be good to serve the board and serve the city in this capacity. That'd be great. I also have a card here I'm going to pass around if you guys wouldn't mind signing a thank you card.
So Jamie, is it our objective tonight to form that nomination group of 2 or 3 board members?
I'd recommend go ahead and create the group in case you, in just a couple of weeks, feel like you have enough applications that you want to review, or at least I can be kind of sending those out to the committee as they roll in, so you can look at applicants.
Okay.
I'm willing to be on that committee. If other people want it more than me, that's fine too.
Yeah, I could also do that. And then Jamie will just let us know when we have some applications to review, yeah. But I would encourage everyone to, Jamie and I can send the link to the website to share that among some folks that you think may be interested. Be nice to have a few to choose from, depending mostly on folks' areas of experience and
Right.
expertise.
I guess that's my question is, to the group, is there a particular areas that we're interested in, more so than others?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I think Paul filled a pretty unique role, even though maybe the box he checked was wetlands and
Yeah.
water resources. Working for the university, he had a lot of sense of that physical development and
Yes.
native plants and habitat too. But I think with the native plants and habitat, we have quite a bit of overlap or redundancy there. I guess it seems like one place we've really struggled is and maybe this is just the gray area of why we're here to discuss things, but when the idea comes up of applicant seeking a variance and we're trying to wrestle with, is this, trying to remember what the actual language says, but is this are they able to reasonably develop the site given NFP restrictions, and given that most of us are not involved with infrastructural development type stuff? I feel like Alan helps us with that quite a bit, but kind of not knowing, I don't know, is that reasonable? I don't know what it takes and what some of the parameters are for some of these developments and how many compromises are being made. So I feel like at least that's where I struggle. So that's, I guess, just one consideration.
I've been thinking similarly that I would like somebody who's worked on the landscape, like some of the consultants that we have come in here who are landscapers, and they are presenting their plans, and it's fine for me to say, here's what you should do, but what's actually possible in the real world, I don't know. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, somebody more from that development And I was thinking like, oh, somebody works for a local landscape architect would be great, but then I worry about conflict of interest. So we have to, I think that's something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, we had a project that came up that the Land Conservancy was doing, and I just didn't participate in that one. So if there's good candidates, that might be a way to avoid that if it does come up. But I guess if there's, local folks in town who are doing a lot of these NFP proposals, that might happen more than once.
Okay.
Yeah, those are good points, and you can overcome those conflicts, just as you described, right? There's a conflict, you can abstain from voting, still participate in discussion,
Mhm.
but. Yeah, no, those are good points you put.
Well, I think moving forward, maybe all of us in the city too, advertising and making it known, and then we can deal with redundancy on the board, and as people voice that they might be not renewing their term, we can make decisions about that. It would be nice to have a pool of people to choose from.
Indeed.
I can ask our communications folks to come up with a little bit of a flyer. We've done that in the past with other boards. I serve as liaison, and so that can also help you all kind of get the word out. Just forward the email. It'll have a flyer that kind of describes the vacancy, and then I will try to put together some of these potential area of expertise or experience that you're looking for, and I'll run that by the committee to make sure you guys think it all looks good, or if we need to add anything, and then we can get that out to everyone.
Good.
Great.
Nice.
Great. So with that all said, can I entertain a motion to appoint myself, Doctor, not quite, Director Colwick and Director Fuller to the Nominating Committee to make a recommendation to this board to fill the vacancy?
So moved.
Support?
Great, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Okay, great. Motion
Yes.
passes.
Good.
He's tongue-tied today. Now we're on to old business. I don't see any items on the agenda. And after that is staff updates.
I had one item that I wanted to give you all a little bit of information on. I think it was back in May or June, this board voted after a positive recommendation for a variance on the 3910 Oakland Drive, I feel like is the address they were using, but this is the Kalamazoo Country Club site, the new construction site. You had given staff administrative review and approval authority over their next phase, which is their site preparation phase. And so they have submitted and had their site plan review meeting with staff. They're actually in round 2 of some revisions. Most recently, I worked with P. Eldridge to confirm that they are all within their numbers for the variance that was requested or granted, which was relief from protected slopes and slope setbacks and some additional woodland removal. So I have approved the plan as it was put forward. You can access the plan online if you're looking for that. The city posts all of the projects that are going through site plan review. Those documents will be online. But what I wanted to mention to this group was the NFP Review Board and the overall zoning code does have the ability for staff or this board to require any special performance bond. And since this feels like the way the variance was granted, so we're only in a phase right now that's looking at site prep and removal of natural features. And then it's a future phase that then some of the requirements of the variance get fulfilled. And if you recall, that is replacing and replanting some of the woodlands and some grasslands. And so what staff is recommending is for full approval at this phase that there is an additional performance bond that the developer move forward with and secure. And if there was ever a situation where the site starts this phase, they start clearing everything, and then for some reason, things, we go out for our inspections, which are going to happen quite regularly, but maybe they never get to the replanting phase, or if for some reason that's not finished, the performance bond would give the city monies to access to have that work done on behalf of the landowner. So I'm just going to put that out there that that site is moving along for approval. I think once they get past, they have some stormwater stuff that they're still doing, but once they kind of make these last tweaks, that will be approved, and you will see work out there. As you remember from the site plan, it's a big line around much of the property, so it is going to be some substantial work that's out there. I also connected with our building official to ask a little bit about the soil erosion and sedimentation control piece of all of this, and I was happy to hear that the city staff are out there at a minimum once per month to inspect all of the erosion control materials. And after any major rain event, they also have to go out and inspect. And then the development team and contractors have their own required inspection schedule that they're going to be following. So we should have some really good coverage out there. But again, we're going to use the performance bond to make sure that if there are things that don't get finished or buttoned up, that there are dollars set aside so that could happen.
So has a value been assigned then to that?
A value hasn't been assigned. We're going to go back to the applicant and ask them to get bids, and then we will review those internally with our city forester and some of our staff to see if those bids seem reasonable, and then ask for the bond to be put in place.
As you're coming up with that number, one thing that I thought of last time after that particular review was over was looking at doing the reforestation of some of those areas afterwards, and the need to spend money on deer protection for a lot of those things. If they're above 6 feet, they have a good chance, but they have to get there. And I know the deer pressure in that area is really high, so might be something to make sure that variable is accounted for, so that A, they're not wasting their money, and B, we actually get something of a some kind of reforestation.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I will note that.
Okay, great. Next is any board announcements. Yeah, everybody good? Well, thank you guys. Yeah, well, I'll miss Director McNallis, but we'll see him around town at other events and everything. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting.